Fellowship family, to this week's episode of the Deeper Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Doug Congdon. I have with me a regular co-host here, Amy Jo Weatherford, which is 2 out of the last 3 weeks or something?
Yeah, this is my third in a row.
Third in a row?
I know.
I'm so sorry to the listeners. That is really sad.
I know.
We have with us first, long-time listener, first-time guest.
Yes.
Our student pastor, Timothy... Amy, middle name?
Do you know?
You know Tim's middle name, right?
Yeah. It's
She's
the last.
freezing.
No.
She's
It's
freezing.
the last half of a president's last name.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember this?
Ford. Yep. Rutherford Hayes.
Buren.
Buren. That's right. Timothy Buren Walker. Tim, thanks for being on.
It's a pleasure. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, great. I couldn't tell if that was laced with sarcasm or not, but we're going to move on either way. And for people who maybe just know us in our current roles, this is actually a little bit of a
Reunion.
all-star student ministry
Oh, yeah.
set up right here. So just curious, counting every year that you've been at least in part-time paid student ministry, how many years do we have between us on the set here? I got 13. Tim, you got
25.
25. We're at 25 this year?
Yeah, I mean,
Steak nice?
so June, I guess. I did a summer camp, so 25 years ago.
Okay,
June,
yeah.
Or May, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
25. What do you got? I mean, it has to
It's
be
just
staff.
like-
Sorry, all of your volunteer years don't
I
count.
know. It's just 6.
Are you saying
That's
our
so
volunteers don't count?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm so
I
sorry.
apologize
Actually,
to any
some
of our
really
volunteers
good
that are listening
volunteers
He's
right
so
now.
good at this. He already looked at the camera. This guy knows what he's doing.
I was paid working with youth
Oh, true.
for
Teaching? Get out of here.
17 years.
Anyway, I'm still doing that math. That is 44 years of student ministry staffing between this panel.
which
That's pretty
is
incredible.
Just under Tim and I's age. And then just
We all
above.
are about the same age, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause are
And you
you-
guys have been demoted out of student ministry.
Yes, exactly.
I
We
know.
sadly lost our jobs due to stupidity. Yeah.
The Lord's
Here's my-
sanctification.
however, I will use our quick question of the day. QQOTD. To talk about student ministry. So we had so many experiences, so many memories.
Oh, gosh.
So just trying to make it easy so you don't have to sift through 25 years of good stories. What is one, you can choose, what is one event that you've done that was so chaotic or terrible that you never did it again? Or what is one super gross game that you've done that maybe was so gross you did never do it again, or maybe it was so gross?
What if it's the same event?
It's the same event? That's perfect.
All right.
You get the 2 for
This is pretty easy. Okay.
Okay.
So the year was 2005, I feel like.
Intro. So, like, what are your first years?
Yeah, like 20 years ago.
Early-ish, yeah.
That's when Survivor came out.
Oh, yeah.
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 So I had this brilliant idea to do a Survivor.
This is good.
So we took, I think it was 16 students, and we loaded up our church van, and we put blackout on the windows so they didn't have any idea where we were going. I think we blindfolded them as well, and we drove them around for like an hour. And then the place that we did the Survivor was like a mile away, but it was like in the middle of the woods. No one knew where we were until they got
out.
voted off.
Yeah.
And was so so there's an incident that happened where so we had the 2 camps. If you watch Survivor, you know this. We had like 2 different camps. We had leaders at each of those camps.
Nice.
Supervising. We had one student who snuck kerosene
No.
Oh, gosh.
with him.
Nope.
Oh, gosh.
So-
How? In like a little pouch or
I don't.
something? A little bag?
I still don't know. So the leader ran up to the house. It was like 100 yards to grab a sandwich for lunch and came back. And that time, this guy put kerosene on the fire.
Nope.
But whatever happened, the girl that was beside him
no.
was wearing those Umbro shorts. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
remember those,
Oh, yeah.
nylon shorts.
Yeah.
And the fire came up on her and melted those shorts on her leg.
No.
Nope.
So luckily, even though I was new to student ministry, I did have an EMT there on staff at all times.
Good job.
So we got her to the hospital pretty quickly.
Oh, my goodness.
But
Nope.
that was
and what did they?
she had like second-degree burns.
Holy.
It was not good. But so here's the gross part.
What? That wasn't it.
No. So we had this game. So again, if you know Survivor, we have challenges. And again, this is student ministry 20. I don't do this anymore. Like this is.
You can trust me with your kids. Yeah.
So we had food challenges.
Yeah.
Where if their team wins, they get like this nice cooked meal. If they don't win, they get something else, like not as good. So we had, I can't remember if it was fried chicken or like pizza, but I think it was fried chicken because the guy, we had someone come, he was cooking it. It was just, the smells was just going throughout the camps. And we had this challenge, and the team that lost, there's this guy on that team named Davey. There's Davey and there's Tracy. And both these guys were pretty large people. Tracy wanted a piece of chicken so bad that he was willing to do anything. So I was trying to think of the grossest thing I could do.
Yeah.
So Davey, he's like this 300+ pound kid. This is like day 3 of Survivor. He's not wearing socks. He's just wearing his tennis shoes.
Okay.
And
I don't know where this is going, but I'm
his feet is like it's black. Oh. So I told Tracy, it's like, all right, if you will lick his foot from the heel all the way up to the toe, not the tip of your tongue, but like full tongue, I will give you a piece of chicken. And he did it.
That's so gross.
Nope.
This is so student ministry. That was
These are things we cannot do in 2026.
Yeah. I think those died out. It was like 7 to 10 years ago. The chubby bunny ruined everything and or helped everything, depending on your perspective. But that is disgusting. Thank you for that. That was nice. It was all compact in the same story.
So never done either one of those games.
And you didn't do Survivor again at all?
I really want to again.
Yeah. Because that concept is great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Amy, you got one?
Yeah. I can't think if it was 2000 or 2001. I was a college student being an intern at a church.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Oh, that would increase my time too, because I did those internships. But I had junior high girls and an empty parking lot at the church I was at.
So far, so good.
And I don't know why I thought they were talking about like how cool it would be to drive a car, and none of them have. And for some reason I thought, yeah, I'll just let them get in my car and drive around in this parking lot. And it was one of the scariest things I've ever done, and I will never do that again.
How old were they, did you say?
Like 12.
Oh my gosh, my daughter, that scares me.
Yeah,
Holy
but they
cow.
were just like, oh, it'd be really cool. And I'm like, well, nothing's in this parking lot.
Yeah, right.
And then, I thought, I'm going to get arrested for
but
this.
that was the end of the story. They didn't wreck it.
No, I mean, we had some I think we went over some curbs and stuff.
Yeah.
But
great.
But I still think about, that could have caused some major issues.
I let my pastor's kid drive my car around in the parking lot trying to help teach him how to drive, and he ran it into a guardrail and caused like $1,000 worth of damage.
See, that's good, but that's what my fear was. And then also I was like, are they going to look at church cameras?
You had a guardrail in your parking lot?
Yeah, well, it was a different church parking lot, but it was like over, there was a cliff behind the church or whatever. Great point. Thank you.
That's why we need guardrails in our life, guys.
To our series, Guardrails, that we did a couple years ago. Yeah, okay, so that was that was fine.
Safe, but also...
Yeah, scary. I'm sorry.
As a female,
I don't mean to underplay. I would just expected the end of that story to be a horrific...
Okay, but can I just be honest? Like, as a female in student ministry, a lot of times your job is to be like, should we do that?
The wise one?
Hey, let's not.
the one slowing down the other people.
So I do feel like that was more of my role.
Yeah, that's true. And you're good at that role. Yeah. You had to do that a lot with this guy over here. Yeah.
And with, other youth pastors and stuff. It's just fun.
Yeah. I'm about to, next week I get to go down to Austin and do a wedding for maybe my last wedding of students who were in Austin. And we were doing premarital counseling, and he brought up, which all my students do, just the Happy Meal in a blender, which we used to do, just the whole thing in there, blend it up, drink it. I mean...
We did.
So again, a classic from pre-Chubby Bunny days that kind of went.
So we did for a fall kickoff one time, a fall one. And it was like a pumpkin spice latte.
Mm-hmm. Was it a hot dog?
A hot dog and something else.
Because it was campfire-y stuff?
Yeah. It was...
Yeah, gross. So gross.
Not good.
It really ruins your blender, too. It is so greasy after that.
Because you brought your personal one.
Yeah. So gross.
Oh, so sorry.
Sorry.
Great, thank you guys. I mean, I'm sure we could do multiple podcasts of just stories about student ministry.
Also,
but
making
would
people
not
put
have faith in
condiments
us.
on Twinkies and eat it.
Okay.
Like, well,
Yeah, that's gross. So there's a lot of gross stuff.
yeah. So
Yeah, there was actually a really good podcast, Youth Group Chronicles, that just tells stories of
Really?
bad things that's happened in
Okay.
student ministry.
Love
That is
that.
hilarious. Okay, we are transitioning into week 9 of the greatest story. We finished Genesis last week. We are starting Exodus this week. So, like we have done for most of our prior 8 weeks, we are going to have our guest tell the story in an abbreviated fashion of everything that's happened. And I'm just going to say this as a disclaimer, which I should have said other times. We have spent 8 weeks, right, talking about stuff. You can skip multiple of those weeks if you feel like the best way to tell this story to somebody who maybe doesn't know the Bible is not to give them all of those details, but rather to just kind of like talk in broad form. So, Tim, get us through Genesis. Take us from Gen 1 to Gen 50.
And we have 15 minutes for this? Okay, so God created the heavens and the earth. It was good. Everything was created was good. Then he created Adam and Eve, and it was very good. And then they chose disobedience, which is not good. And sin was brought into the world. Sin spread pretty quickly. It turns out that we're very good at sinning. And then God judges the earth through the flood. God spared Noah, who was a righteous man, and his family, and started over with them. And then you got the Tower of Babel that just God confused the language, pride took over and scattered the nations. And then we have our man Abraham, who we love. Father Abraham had many sons.
He did.
And many sons had Father Abraham, which I didn't know. The second part of that song I don't quite understand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did he?
Did he?
Yeah, because I think it was 2. But yeah.
But anyway.
Doesn't he have other like wife things at the end? And there's other people.
Oh my goodness. Stop
Then Abraham, God made his covenant with Abraham that he will have many sons and descendants and blessings in the land. And finally, after a while, Isaac is born. Isaac, Abraham and Sarah were both pretty old at this point. So Isaac is born. He has 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob gets the blessing from God, receives the blessing, and after wrestling with God, his name is changed to Israel.
Nice.
And then Jacob, or Israel, whatever you want to call him, has 12 sons, and his first son from his favorite wife is Joseph, and Joseph is the favorite. It's obvious that Jacob loves Joseph the most. Very long story short, Joseph goes out to see his brothers. They throw him in a pit, end up selling him as a slave to Potiphar's house. He found favor there, but then was wrongly accused and was thrown into prison. And then while in prison, he was kind of forgotten about for a while. And then Pharaoh had these dreams that no one could interpret. And through some experience, the cupbearer remembered that Joseph could interpret dreams, brought him up, interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, which was 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. And then Joseph rises to power in Egypt and prepares the nation for the famine. Then Joseph's brothers come looking for food. Again, another long story short, ends up moving the entire family to Egypt. There were 70 of them at the time.
Nice.
And
good note there to set us up.
Yep. And then they honestly found favor with Pharaoh, which is good because we don't see that when we turn into Exodus with the new Pharaoh. But they started having babies and grew larger and larger, and that kind of gets us into Exodus.
Yeah, perfect. You ended Genesis with the whole family moves to Egypt, and then we pick up. So we're doing Exodus 1-4, just the first part of Moses' life and calling. So why don't you recap that? So for the listeners / viewers here, we are flying a bit blind. Joe is still out of town, so we didn't have a run through. He sent us some notes though, so we think we know what he's going to cover. So take us through 1-4 real quick, Amy, and set us up for our convos today.
Yeah. So basically, we pick back up. The 70 some people have been obedient to be fruitful and multiply, as good families should. And at this point, because of how God set them up, being in the best of the land and having all of these things, they multiplied greatly, and it says they grew exceedingly strong, so that the land was filled with them. It's kind of our heart for the Weatherford family too. But so they multiplied. New Pharaoh, who did not know Joseph, who did not have that connection, did not have that background, comes to power. He sees how many Hebrew people, Israelite people there are, and honestly knows that this could be a problem for him because there's so many they could take over. So he orders that all male children that are born are cast into the Nile. And then we see in that, which we'll talk later about the obedience, but in a weird way, disobey, disobey
the midwives.
And lie, midwives. But in that time, we have a certain, once again, we see God zoom into a certain family or certain people. And there is a mother who protects the life of her son by putting him in a basket in the Nile.
Yeah.
And then if you watch, the Prince of Egypt, a hippo and everything,
Is there a hippo in that?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
But so anyways, then this little boy, this child, this baby is, God directs his basket to where one of the Pharaoh's daughters happens to be. She is like, a gift from the Lord. Or one of their gods.
Nice, yeah.
And so she is like, I want to take this baby. Miriam, Moses' sister, says, hey, my mom can help out. He grows up within the palace and as an Egyptian, but yet still knows somehow or at some point figures out there is these Hebrew roots too. Yeah, right. And so sees Egyptians abusing a man. He and kills him. He steps in, kills the Egyptian, and then when he tries to break up a dispute between two Israelites, they call out his sin. He runs out and goes and lives in Midian in the desert and finds a family there. But in that time, he has an encounter with God. Yeah. Through a burning bush. And then that's really where we're going to
it feels like that's where, as far as we know, Joe's going to camp, is really in that conversation between Moses and God at the burning bush. And so as I'm reading the story again this week, and every time I read the story of the burning bush, well, let me just ask you guys so that I don't, kind of lead this. But what emotions do you feel reading this interchange between God and Moses? What stands out to you about it, I guess, would be a nice generic way of putting that. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, when I read, this is smaller print than
no, we're gonna need the glasses.
7 through 10
of
chapter 3. Yeah, okay. This is God speaking to him, and every time I read this, I circle all the I's. Like it is, I have heard, I've seen, I'm concerned, I have come down, I have, and it's just, again, it's so, to us, to me at least, it's so clearly obvious that God's going to do this. And he just needs Moses to be obedient.
Nice.
But
I also have that. I don't know if maybe you were teaching on it when I underlined it, but it just stands out so much. All of those I have surely seen, I have heard, I know, I have come down to deliver, to bring them up. So all of that stuff of God pays attention. God is paying attention to his people. Yeah. And that's hard. Again, when we talked about Job and we talked about Joseph, if you're the Jews, it feels like you have been suffering under the weight of Pharaoh's anger and slavery, basically, for a long time, and God's not listening. And God reveals to Moses that he's listening, but to the Jews who are still in Egypt, like they probably haven't felt that. They don't know that. So just another reminder, a lot of these stories in the Old Testament are, when you look at the people in it, they're incredible because of the faith that they continue to have in the darkest of situations, when they don't feel this truth that God is seeing them and knows where they're at. What do you feel when you read this kind of interchange?
Yeah, you see God declaring who he is. You, like, once again, declaring what he will do. Just, it's such a reminder. But I think as I've read it more and more, I realize that the people in Israel, like the Israelites themselves, probably, I mean, there's a good chance they have not been given the tradition and been told what God has done in the past.
Yeah.
By the neglect
That's interesting to think about. Yeah.
And then even like Moses, how much of this is God having to tell him? Because how much of his upbringing did he really know who the God of his people are?
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it too, is like, are we kind of starting with a new generation that's going to have to hear this? Hey, here's what I did in the past.
Yeah.
And so, and generations have passed and you guys have not heard.
Yeah. That's interesting to think about. We just have no idea how well that oral tradition was passed down to
and
all of them. Yeah.
I'm not even sure we mentioned this. Maybe I missed it. But from Genesis 50 to Exodus 1 and 2, like, it's 400 years.
Time frame. We didn't talk about that. Yeah. A lot of time.
Which, you have to go all the way back to Genesis 15:13, where God, tells Abram that you will you can be sure that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land where they will be oppressed and slaves for 400 years.
Yeah.
So, again, the tradition or the oral tradition, we don't know exactly what that was, but for 400, how old is our country?
Right. It's not 400.
250.
Yeah. So that's like 150 years longer than we've been a country.
Yeah.
They were slaves in Egypt.
Yeah.
So.
Great point. And we so often skip by it because in our reading it's a turn of the page. Yeah. But 400 years, crazy long time for that.
Well, and you think about, even we will get further into Exodus and as we get into and then Leviticus and Deuteronomy and Numbers and these
they're Deuteronomy.
I know, that's a new one.
That sounds inappropriate.
I know.
Sorry, keep going.
But there were laws for everything. But
there is a chapter actually in Leviticus that would fit very well in.
But even in that, how quickly did they turn around and forget what the Lord had given them? And so I'm so in that 400 years,
think about how quickly they forgot in 5 years. What do you think happened over 400? Yeah, that's a good point.
This has been one of those things that hits me so hard, is even how much do we even know our own spiritual journeys? Who shared Christ with you? Who did you learn these things from? And how
often do you go back and actually think about that stuff, remember it intentionally, thank God for it? Yeah, that's a good point.
Generationally, how this has gotten back to me. So,
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think your 2 points are really helpful, because my immediate emotional reaction, because I'm just turning pages, is frustration generally with Moses. God's doing this incredible work. He's done the burning. And I just have read God's perspective on Moses' birth, the miraculous way his mother was brought into the picture, how he's raised in the palace. And it's so I look at Moses interacting with God in the burning bush, and I'm like, why are you being so difficult? God is doing such incredibly obvious supernatural things, and he's saying he's going to be with you. Why are you fighting this? But if you take all the stuff we just talked about into account, it gives me a lot more grace of this guy, he probably he wasn't steeped in a lot of religious tradition. He probably didn't know, as Yahweh comes to reveal himself. So it gives me a little bit of grace to think about it that way, instead of being frustrated.
Which I would say, for most of my life reading this since I was little, I was like, dude, you don't think of the context and the reality. And so I always have had more of that negative frustration with him, like I've had with the Israelite people, until I realized.
Right, exactly. Same thing.
But even you just saying that, this is kind of Brian's role each week to be but they don't know this. They didn't see this before. So
thank you. Thanks for playing the role of the middle chair there. Yeah. So Joe talks about, in this conversation, 3 points in Moses having insecurity with his identity. In other words, asking the question, who am I? Like, who am I to be called to do this? Being insecure in his ability when he talks about, like, I can't speak, you need to send somebody else. And then it seems like kind of at the end, he says insecure will here, like, and I don't want to. And so when we talk about things that God has called us to, first of all, we're going to have there's always going to be a slight disconnect here because none of us have a burning bush experience, right? So
I've caught something on fire, but yeah, not.
yeah, different, but I respect that. Yeah. We're going to have a situation or a calling that feels less supernatural, maybe less obvious, less audible. And yet we have all been called. Specifically at this table, we've all been called into ministry. And so the question for people who are listening and the question for us is, how have we responded, or how do we tend to move into reactions of insecurity when God calls us to do something? What's that look like? How have you guys experienced that or seen it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and I was actually sharing this even with our students last night, but like probably one of my biggest strongholds is insecurity. Like, it's something that the enemy will constantly puts in front of me where, like, I'm not a good enough husband, or I'm not a great father, or I'm not a great student pastor. Like, those are things that are, I wouldn't say constantly, but when the enemy wants to get to me, like, those are things that he would put in front of me and it just brings up so much insecurity in my own life. And those are things I have to fight against. And it's something that, like, I can leave here on a Wednesday night after, a great night of ministry and feel like everything was terrible. And like, I'm not good enough. I'm not. And again, it's like deep down, like, I know it's the enemy. Like, I know this is not truth. This is, but I oftentimes allow myself to go there. Yeah. And that's not necessarily a great thing, but
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So do you feel like it's always been true in your ministry experience? Has it been like since you started, it's been true? Or?
Oh gosh. I mean, I'll say, for the most part, yes. I would say so.
Okay. Was it there in your, like, I'm just thinking Moses here. Was it there in your initial call? Do you remember the initial time you kind of felt like, okay, I know I'm supposed to do student ministry, or this feels like it? Did you have a hesitation in that initial call of, like, I don't think I can do this? Or right, I know that was a long time ago.
I honestly don't think so.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, you're causing me to self-reflect here.
It's therapy here.
No, like, I feel like when I kind of felt first called to ministry, there was so much excitement and clarity and, so much learning to do. But I feel like I was probably more confident even.
Yeah. Was it the confidence of youth, of, like, naivete of being like, I can
maybe I was just younger and
didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can make people lick other people's feet. And I don't know. That's interesting though.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Ames?
Yeah. As you're saying this, I was looking at these questions, and what I realized is so much of, I don't know if it's an insecure identity as much as I had kind of given God the identity I wanted to have for him and how I wanted him to use me. Yeah.
The identity, you had given God the identity you wanted him to use for you, or have for you. Yeah. So,
like, that's why when I look at things, probably my biggest challenge was actually surrendering to what he was actually asking of me and in the context he was asking of me, rather than, like, I knew I was just going to be a good pastor's wife and do these things, and, like, I just wanted to be a good mom and a wife, and God was like, what if I'm calling you something else? And so I think that's probably been the hardest journey, and not even seeing everything through a lens, which wasn't like a bad identity. It just wasn't the pure identity. So like even teaching, like, great, this is going to help me be a better mom, or everything was still through a different lens where God was like, no, you're still trying to respond. And so I do think the insecure will, when I think of a lot of times my greatest, when I would really get to the heart of things over the years, my biggest fear is, what if what God has for me is not what I want? And what does that look like to surrender? Because if I truly know God is who God says he is, I know it will be for his glory and for my good. But also, I gave him my life. And so I think that has probably been the hardest thing to have to surrender, is like the will part, because my will, like what I wanted to do with my life was good stuff. And it was for his, like I wanted to do it for good purposes and to advance the gospel. But his way of doing it was going to look different. So I think for me, it's more that the fear or insecurity of like, wait, I don't want to do what your plans are for me, Lord. I want to do it in a better way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. That's kind of a slightly different take, but I think a lot of people will identify with having felt that as well. And I feel like it's interesting to you, youth ministry veteran, many years, large youth group, right, has grown it, to struggle with insecurity in your ways. You struggle with insecurity and kind of your will side. I mean, I feel like insecurity is probably, I've struggled with insecurity as well. I feel like no matter your experience, your pedigree, your education, there are going to be times, especially in ministry or when God calls you to step out, which whenever he calls you to do something, it's always going to include some kind of stepping out of your comfort zone. That insecurity is going to come in because it is such a key foundational question that we wrestle with all the time. Who am I? Yeah. Who am I to do this? Who am I to even have the right to do this? Insecurity for me has looked like, I think more of I don't want to say it's a mixture of ability and identity. It's basically with the sin that is in my life and in my mind, and like, why am I being called into any position of spiritual leadership? And it's a question that will come up when I'm when somebody asks to meet with me or goes through counseling sessions with me, and I'm like, yeah, but there's got to be somebody better out there than me to be able to do this. The sickness of my own heart and my own head. It seems crazy. So let me ask you this follow-up question to Tim mainly, but Amy too in this. So you talk about it being kind of a fight, and I think everybody's going to understand on an emotional, personal level, they also have this fight. So we can answer kind of the temptation of the devil in positive and negative ways, right? There's one way we can go kind of worldly and say, no, I am worthy because I am enough, or because I am enough, for Barbie, or there's all the phrases of the world are, no matter who you are, like you're enough. And so you can fight it with that human kind of worldly answer, or you can go to what, Yahweh is trying to call Moses into, which is, it's not about you at all. Like, this is about me. I'm going to be doing this. Yeah. You're just available. So how have you wrestled, Tim, Amy, with dealing with that insecurity in the right way versus the wrong way, if that makes sense?
I think so. Tiffany even has been with me for all of my ministry years. Yeah. And it's interesting that she kind of knows when
she can sense it when you're there,
when I'm going there.
Yeah.
So I think with that said, I think having community to, point you back to the truth, is super, super helpful and important. But then, and again, so it's usually Thursdays is usually the worst day for me.
Okay. Youth groups on Wednesday night.
Yep.
So Thursdays.
Yep. Thursdays when, if the enemy's going to attack, he's going to attack it on Thursday. So I think after 25 years of ministry, I'm aware of that. I know the enemy's going to attack. I know he's going to bring about my sin, my insecurity, all those things.
Yeah.
So I think just remaining true to God's word, in those times that I feel like I'm at my worst, or that I'm not good enough, or I'm not, that someone else can do better than me. Someone else can be a better youth pastor than me.
Yeah. When you have community, in this case, Tiffany, and I think,
Yeah, and it's not just Tiffany, but yes.
Right. What is that scripture generally that helps you the most when she's kind of pointing you back to truth? Is it just kind of like she knows what you deal with, so she knows the kind of like...
Yeah, it's probably a mixture. It's probably both and.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's it look like for you when you're have had people? Well, could be community or just in general. How do you choose to go to kind of honoring God with it in it instead of fighting it with your own flesh?
I think the first part is, and I think Tim kind of said it, but I mean, and that's why we get frustrated with Moses, is we look at everything through our own lens.
Mm-hmm.
And when I know I'm consumed in me, just as much as God is allowed to use as many eyes, I have, like he can do that. When it becomes a lot of me's, that's when I know I'm not in a good place. But also, I think this has been the thing that the Lord has to just keep bringing back when I find myself like, this is not what I want, Lord. This is what I showed you how I could be used in this way. Or you've given me these skills. Why aren't I getting to use them this way? I'm just constantly reminded that I have yet to arrive.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no better place to be than in the will of the Lord, like to be obedient to him. And so I'm like, and I'm constantly reminded, like, you said that he can have everything. So what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you still trying to take that back and live for your own purposes and stuff? But I think so much is like just having to hold on to the truth that, and I love this last week's, I love Joseph's story for that, but he really is using these things for our good and for his glory. And the more I can lean into him and be like, okay, I'm going to trust you in this, reminding myself this is actually going to let me know him better. It's going to deepen my intimacy with him, but it's also going to make me more like who I truly want to be. Me fighting him, me trying to do my own thing gets in the way of him making
Doing
me
his work.
look more like Christ, and and it gets in the way of our relationship. So
Yeah, I think it's been a while since I've had this thought, and this is such an elementary thought because we teach it all the time in our teaching, but like God uses the most broken people because it is the most clear picture of his own power.
Yeah.
And that's so great when we read the Old Testament, and it's so tough when you think about yourself. Hold up. I'm a discipleship leader at this church. So that means that God chose me not because I was like qualified to do it, but probably because I'm so broken that.
Let me find someone that's really broken.
Let me showcase it through the cracks. Yeah.
Okay. So we've been in lots of like life advice counseling situations. And so for most of the people, I mean, 99% of the people listening, they're not doing, occupational ministry like us. Thank you. Vocational ministry. That's what I was looking for. But what situations have you heard about people where you feel like God's calling them to do something in their life where they feel inadequate, insecure, can't do it? And I'll just give you a second to think. My first thought is counseling somebody who wants me to come share the gospel with their friend. And because I have answers, and what if they have questions that they don't know how to answer? And that's one of those situations where I'm like, God has put you in their life. And so you are the one that's called to do this, even if you feel just like Moses, like I don't have the words and I need somebody else to come speak for me. No, God will provide the words for you if you will be available to him. Are there other situations like that where people out there listening might be like, I feel like God might be calling me to this, but I don't feel qualified enough to do it?
Actually, I was just having a conversation last night at Surge with one of our student impact kids, high schoolers, which is our student leadership team. And so in May, we do a student impact takeover where they take over Surge for a night. And like we were just chatting, catching up, whatever. And it kind of turned to kind of the student impact takeover.
Yeah.
And I just mentioned, you'd be really good to kind of share your testimony or your story or give a message or whatever. And like she just freaked out. It's like, no, like I can't do that. But then. Yeah, it was just a very cool conversation. It's like, no, you can. Like, you can do that. Like, your story is worth telling. And she went to Belize with us last year. I was like, do you remember the training we did for Belize about the comfort zones? And, like, she remembered more than I did. And I did the teaching. It's like, exactly. Like, God's going to use that experience that is very uncomfortable for you to expand your comfort zone and make it even larger. And it was just, like by the end of the conversation, like she was just processing it and was like, yeah, I think I probably could do this. I think I could.
Nice.
Even though it's super, I don't feel qualified. I don't feel like I can. I don't feel like I'm not a good speaker. Like, one of Moses' excuses.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I think with the time we have and the preparation, it could happen. So
Nice. Okay.
that was the first thing that came to my mind.
That's very
recent. Yeah.
yeah, very timely. Absolutely.
I think over just the years of like walking with like younger sisters in the faith or walking with older sisters in the faith, one of the things that constantly comes to my mind is how many times I've heard somebody who has walked with Jesus for a long time and have walked through all the things, and there's just more of a spiritual maturity because they've just walked a lot of that journey with him. They don't feel qualified to come alongside younger women.
Oh,
and I
to
have
like
these,
mentor, disciple others?
because they're like, oh no, I'm not qualified. I'm not seminary trained. I'm not whatever.
Interesting.
I just, or you hear all the time, like even with like surge leaders or different times, like, well, I just don't know the Bible. Like, and I was like, but what is God teaching you? What is like, what scripture do you like, are you studying and stuff? Take the little you have and then turn and share that. Like, he's not expecting you to have this all down seminary, whatever, but like, how are you being faithful with the little bit?
Yeah.
How are you, or even like spiritual gifts or things like that. I just think there's a lot of times that we feel like there has to be this special training, and it's like, no, life is the training. And as you rely on him, like, what does that look like for you to just keep taking what he's entrusted you with and then sharing that with somebody else?
And then turning it
It's
around.
like that quote, like that where God doesn't call the qualified, but he qualifies the called. Like,
Yeah.
like he will, he'll give you what you need to. I mean, I think what God is looking for is yes.
Yeah.
Like, say yes, then, which is hard.
Yeah.
That's,
But scary for sure.
But then he's going to come alongside you. He's going to equip you with what you need. But I mean, prayer is another one. How many people, when it comes to, I couldn't share scripture or prayer, like, no, I don't.
Praying out loud kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because
that's
they just
such
don't
a small
feel
one
qualified.
Too,
but a powerful one.
People get very scared of it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we're going to push into over the next couple of years at church is people who come to you and are like, man, I really think the church needs to do X, Y, and Z ministry, and to turn around and be like, you have a heart and passion for that. Why don't you lead it? And not me. I could never lead it. But like professional Christians, you guys should think about that. And we're really going to try and start pushing, our congregation to be like, hey, if you have a passion for something out there in the community that we can help you with, we'd love to do that. But people get, it's scary. Yeah. Okay. So we are longer on time. We're going to jump straight to the cutting room floor. Cut. Nice. Cut. Okay. So we only have 4 chapters this week, and it seems like he's really focusing on 3 and 4. So what are details of the story that we probably aren't going to have time to cover from the pulpit that you like or that are meaningful to you that you want to point out or maybe discuss? I mean, you came on the pod last week and talked about how you've watched The Prince of Egypt twice a year, every year for 20 years or whatever. So
I'm just going to say, growing up, church, Sunday school, I feel like somebody sold us a scam that like Moses was this guy that was out, let my people go. Let's be honest, his mouthpiece was Aaron, and I think that still really bothers me.
Oh, that's a good point.
How much Aaron had to come alongside him. And I'm like, come on, Moses. And even if he had a stutter, I don't care. Like, why were you like...
Yeah. Oh,
so
okay.
I do feel
it's
like...
nice that's still in your craw a little bit.
Because even when you see like Prince of Egypt and some of these things, they just don't present it like
Aaron is doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
What was they used to show it the Moses old cheesy movie.
Sure, like Charlton Heston.
The Ten Commandments, yeah. Like even in that, like you just always see Moses as, and you're like, but actually. So I don't know, that one always gets me. And whenever we read this, and then the midwives, like, they lied. Yeah. Is God okay with that?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we haven't technically gotten the 10 Commandments yet.
Which is worse.
Exactly. Yeah. When your ethical problem is you can lie or you can kill babies, it seems to be easier. But yeah, when it says in verse 20 of chapter 1, so
Yeah.
God dealt well with the midwives and the people multiplied and grew very strong. It's like, yeah, God's blessing that civil disobedience.
But they didn't get the 10 Commandments yet, so I do think like that's okay.
Yeah,
But no,
okay,
I know.
yeah.
But they're lying in a way or deceiving in a way to protect these children. But
Yep.
So let me ask this: do you think Moses has some identity issues?
Oh,
Golly.
I mean,
he had to have, right?
Like
Yeah.
he
That's
a good
grew up
point.
Hebrew, but in Pharaoh's house, like, is it a surprise that he has all of these insecurities
Yeah.
in his life?
well, he doesn't know where he fits. He doesn't really fit with the Israelites, and he doesn't fit. I mean, Prince of Egypt really helps you
I was about to
understand
say,
that.
you're speaking so confidently. It must be Prince of Egypt.
It was. But like, who are you? Like, where do you fit in?
Yeah. I would guess. And it was interesting when you get into when he goes to Midian and then the daughters come back and say an Egyptian helped us. So in my mind I was like, okay, so he must have looked really Egyptian. I mean, there's not a whole probably big difference in that
Yeah.
whole Middle Eastern kind of ancient Near East
And you can pull it
Skin
off pretty
tone,
well
but,
because
like-
Joseph did too.
but like he must have looked Egyptian enough that he felt like he fit in with the Egyptians, but then the Hebrews knew he was a Hebrew.
Yeah.
He knew he was a Hebrew, so
I think it comes down to the eyeliner. Just saying.
also a lot of Prince of Egypt eyeliner and other movies. Those Egyptians love the eyeliner, I guess. I don't know that that's historically accurate. Okay. Yeah, good point on that one. The midwives' role in the story has always been, I always feel so bad for them. I'm always so impressed by them, too. I did just ask, I don't think I realized until reading this again that he was a descendant of Levi. So the Levite priestly tribe, I hadn't really thought of that, even though I know that we talk about him being like a priest and a leader later, that he's of that same line. So I liked that. But I think people sometimes forget that he is in the line of Abraham because he like grew up in the palace in Egypt. He is actually from the line.
Yeah.
So God is using him to tie the whole thing together. And it's interesting when we tie together the land, seed, blessing, promise. This is where seed gets fulfilled. Is in 400 years of slavery, God has given them this. He just grows them and grows them, but they don't have the land, and they certainly don't feel the blessing at this point.
Nope.
So it's kind of like the next book is the unfolding of those next two pieces. What stands out to you, Tim?
Okay, so this is silly.
But that's what the cutting room floor is for. It's silly sometimes.
And I think this would probably only work in our English Bibles. And like I think I've noticed it more this go around of reading scripture, even like with Abraham and Isaac, Jacob, all these, when God calls them, like in verse 4, chapter 3, God called to him from the middle of the bush, Moses, Moses, and he says, "Here I am."
Yeah.
Like how? Okay, again, this only works in the English Bible, right? But if you just put a comma behind the "here," it's like, "Here
Oh.
I am."
Oh, cool.
Like
Okay.
how much? Like if that was his approach to this, like if he knew who was speaking to him,
Yeah.
and he's like, "All right," again, putting your yes, like, "Here I am."
Yeah.
Here, God, like Yahweh, just I'm your.
Which in ways,
I mean, it would be.
Joe said about like how the "here I am," even earlier when we were talking about some of the patriarchs, it's like that was it was just obedience. Like when you say "here I am," it's obedience. But I kind of like it.
Gosh, I love the whole revelation of God's name in this. Like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I am being the first time, and I don't ever think about it, but like through all the patriarchs, through Noah, I mean, according to
No one
chapter
asked.
6, like, no one knew his name. He said, I have revealed myself to them as El Shaddai, but not, Yahweh. And for him to get to hear that, how cool is that? His actual, revelation of his name to Moses. I mean, when we look at it again, I look at Moses, I'm like, what more could you have asked for,
Yeah.
dude? Like, that's
Yeah.
so awesome that you got that.
Which is so crazy, and I cannot remember where the conversation was. Somebody was talking to me this week how somebody had pointed out to them, we don't even realize it, but when you look at the word "I am," because of reading through all this, like even when we introduce ourselves, we say "I am" whatever. If we start thinking about it, we're putting God before we say our own name. Like, here's God.
A lot of little interesting, cute things
And
here.
I was like, oh, so even as you said that, I was like, here, I'm like, like if I could train my brain to see that more, we focus more on God.
I like it. If you've read it, if you're reading this right now, you got to 424 probably. So he's going back to Egypt, right? They've done this thing, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
Yep.
it says, "At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met him and sought to put him to death." And it's like, wait, what? Where did that come from? Then his Midianite wife took a flint, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it, and said, "Surely you're a bridegroom of blood to me." So God, let him, Moses, alone. It was then that she said, "A bridegroom of blood," because of the circumcision.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, what? I mean, again, this is so frustrating in the Old Testament, but the utter lack of context and just jumping into that. It's like, okay, did God tell him a number of times, "Hey, you need to circumcise your son," and he was just like, "Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not going to." Blah blah blah. And he just hadn't done it, and then God was like, "No, you're doing it. If I'm calling you to lead my people, like you have to set an example. Like you have to do it in your own house." Or was this really out of the blue as much for Moses as it is for us reading it, where he's like, "Wait, what?" I don't know. Every time I get to this part and the bridegroom of blood and the fact that his Midianite wife did it instead of him. Yeah, I don't know. You guys, anything?
What I'm hearing loudly in that is like, a good wife will help a man be more obedient to Jesus, to God. But
so husbands, if you're not circumcised.
Yeah, golly, dude.
Also, if anybody out there has been going through the Bible recap, Tara Lee says...
What does she say about it? Does she have a good answer for it?
Just that we use the word feed, or like sometimes we'll talk about thigh.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that.
Yeah,
Somebody can look that up if they want later. But yeah,
that one will just stick with me a little different.
I know, me too. When you think about it that way, and it's like, I don't even want to. Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure that people who got there were like, oh, they totally skipped it because it was a hard story. I just want to let you know, like, we also know it was a difficult story, and I'll give you what little explanation we can.
Yeah.
So I will say, I remember being on the same time I was at the internship. Is this going to be an appropriate story, Amy? I just remember heading to St. Louis with a bunch of middle school boys who asked me to ride in the van with them, and I was in the back seat. And I was not prepared for them, in all seriousness, to have a couple of boys that were 7th graders that were like, "Can we ask you some questions about circumcision?" I'm like, not my expertise.
But you tried anyway, or you were like, do not ask your dad?
I literally, they were like, "No, seriously, it's because we were reading something in the Bible." And I was like,
yeah. One
of their questions I could answer. One of the questions I said, "Yeah, talk to your dad," or "You got a youth pastor right there." Not my expertise.
Yeah, that's funny. One of my other questions for Quick Question of the Day was going to be like, what's the craziest thing you've overheard in a van, like on a trip?
Oh, dear.
That would be top of the list there.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Okay. Great. Thank you guys for sharing. Thanks for being vulnerable, for honesty. Tim, will you pray for our church people, for people who are listening, specifically maybe just in that main point that we talked about, if God's calling them to do something, that they would rest on him and not themselves, and just kind of lift that up.
Yeah, let's pray. Father, we are so grateful for you, and we're grateful for your calling on each of our lives, and just thank you for this time that we can come together and just dig into these 4 chapters a little deeper and discuss. And God, I just right now just confess my own insecurities to you, that you will just help me to find my security in you, and you alone. And God, I pray for anyone that's listening or watching that has their own insecurities about their calling that you have on their lives, that you would just give them the boldness to say yes to you, even though they don't have all the answers, even though they don't even have maybe a specific direction for their calling. But that you would just help them to say yes, and just to be obedient to whatever you have next for them. So God, we pray that through this, that you will, even through Joe's message this weekend, that you just give him just wisdom to preach your truths, and that you will open up each and every heart this weekend to be challenged and to respond to whatever is next for their lives. We love you, and we praise all in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, that was fun.
Good to have you on. Thanks, Amy, as always. Thank you, Fellowship family, for listening to this episode of the Deeper Podcast, and we'll catch you all next time.